What's good, everybody? It's Drewberry back with another snap or pass, and this time we're talking about Martyr. And I want to start it off with a question for you. Is this card right here, even before we break it down and talk about it, is Martyr going to be the worst new release in Marvel Snap to date? It is up for debate. I'm seeing a lot of comparisons to some of the worst cards, the worst one drops, and for good reason. Martyr is a 1/4 at the end of the game. Move to a location that loses you the game, if possible. So this is a card that is literally trying to throw a match. If she can, she will, which makes her a 1 energy play that you spent the energy, the time to play, only to force you to lose the match or go somewhere where you didn't want her to be. Now, of course, there's a lot of ways that we can mitigate this poor effect, which kind of gives her some hope, but I still think this is going to be a difficult card to warrant putting into your decks. But we're going to break it all down here today. We're going to talk about mechanics, counters, deck lists, and I even have a new section here where we're going to talk about data mine synergies, because I see you guys commenting that a lot. I usually try to avoid it because I don't want too many spoilers, so if you want to skip by that section, I totally understand, but I've added that in here today. Let's talk about the spotlight caches real quick. It's trash. This is absolute trash. I wouldn't open up a spotlight cache because these cards are not very good. They're not very popular. Martyr doesn't seem to be all that great. There's one Series 4, one Series 5. You're looking at Jean Grey. That's a pretty cool variant, but the card herself isn't played a whole lot. And then Spider-Man 2099, you know, he doesn't always work in a lot of decks. Not very popular. Only 3,000 tokens. So this is just like a huge pass for me in the spotlight cache department, in my opinion. If you don't own these cards, maybe you want to do it, but I'm telling you, man, there's going to be better weeks in December, so hold off, have a little bit of patience. But as for Martyr herself, she is a Series 4 card, 3,000 token release. We're going to talk about it in a sec. Let's get to the mechanics. Oh man, I can already see the headlines with this card. It's going to be the #1 thing on Reddit. It's going to say, why didn't Martyr move? Guarantee it. It's going to happen. Devs are going to get blasted with questions for that. But let me tell you a few tips to help you understand why your Martyr moved or didn't move, okay? And the most important thing to understand about this card, to understand about a card like Captain Marvel, is that play order matters, all right? So let's get a quick example going. You play Martyr on turn 1, right? Your opponent plays Martyr on turn 6 or any turn after. It doesn't really necessarily matter. But what's going to happen is your Martyr is going to perform the check first. She's going to look to see if she can lose you the game. And then her opponent's Martyr is going to do the same thing. A similar check, but it's going to be sequential, not at the same time. They're not going to talk to one another from across the locations and say, hey, are you moving over there? I'll move over here, and I'll make my team lose over your team losing. And they're going to fight to see who can lose better. No, that's not what's going to happen, okay? It's going to happen one after the other. So, in fact, if your opponent does play Martyr after Martyr's already on the board, that's a bad move, because the last Martyr is going to ensure that that player loses. So if you play Martyr first, you're probably pretty safe in doing so. Another thing is with Captain Marvel. It's the same thing, guys. Your Martyr's going to check to see if she can lose the game. If she can't, she's not going to move. She's going to stay still. Then Captain Marvel's going to go, how can I win the game? And then move accordingly. That goes for your side of the board. If you're playing both these cards, if your opponent happens to have one, just pay attention to when the card was played, because that's what's going to influence if the card moves or not. Another crazy thing that I don't know if it's going to happen a whole lot, but it could, is that Martyr will tie a location to lose a game. This is developer confirmed. I'm also under the impression, I don't know 100%, but I feel like 99% here, is that she will not move to tie a game. A tie is not a loss, right? She's looking to make you lose some cubes. So I don't think she'll move to tie a game, but she will move to tie a single location so that the net difference of power will lose you the game. All right, so she's really hunting for those L's. And then another thing about her is that she'll look to see if your opponent has Kraven, move to that location to give that Kraven +2 power, which really blows. We know this because Captain Marvel will do the same to get the win to move to a Kraven location. So Martyr's going to do the opposite if your opponent is running a move deck or has Kraven on the board. Another thing is that she will recognize locations that can help lose the match. So the biggest one being Bar with No Name, right? You're basically screwed if you're running Martyr or any kind of Martyr deck, most likely, and Bar with No Name shows up. But probably don't want to play cards there anyways, right? Just in general, you don't want to play cards there. But with Martyr, I think the objective is to fill your board so she can't move, or at least limit the locations that she can move to. But you can't play cards at Bar with No Name, so you can't really fill it up, meaning that if she is on the board, she's definitely going to move there and lose you the game. So that's going to suck. Another one is she will just explode if she goes to Fist Tower. She'll be like, oh, I can get rid of 4 power if I move to Fist Tower. Boom. Let it be done. A true Martyr. So just look out for those sorts of things. I mean, not really that you can do anything about it, but there is ways to mitigate, somewhat control her ability. Like I hinted at, we can fill the board up. I'm looking at cards like Ultron or even Shannon the She-Devil to fill it up. Mysterio, just make sure that Martyr can't move. And then she's just a premium stat line card, a 1/4, which we know in Marvel Snap, when a card carries a base power that is significantly better than the cost to play the card, they typically find a way to be relevant. So that's what kind of makes me not want to sleep on this card too much, claim her to be the worst card ever to be added to Marvel Snap. No, I'm not going to go that far, but there are a few glaring cons to a card like Martyr. But the last pro that I will mention for this card is that she is the last known Series 4 release. Now, the devs have said that they're going to be releasing some more information about the economy, series drops, this sort of thing in December. So fingers crossed for that they actually provide us with good news, because the game is just getting more and more expensive. And we're looking at December, January, no Series 4 releases, according to data mines, right? That's subject to change, but Martyr here is the last known Series 4 release. That is a tough pill to swallow. Another weird thing that I kind of want to mention is that this card used to be a 2/6. I liked her a lot better as a 2/6, let me tell you. There was a lot of synergies that you could do with like Sarah so that she becomes a 1/6, you play the card. More power means less likely to move to lose you the game, because it's so much power that maybe it just wins that other location if she goes there, right? So there is synergy in buffing her up so that she has lesser chance of moving. But as a 1/4, I don't know, it's just in this weird spot where it's maybe just not enough power to warrant using buffs or anything like that. Makes it a very difficult spot. So of course, a potentially game losing ability. That sucks, right? It's going to feel really bad if you play a card and that is the reason you lost 4 or 8 cubes, right? We do not want to be bringing those cards to the table, putting them in our decks. And there's a lack of direct synergy. Like I talked about some buffing cards. You could look at like Forge or Shuri even. I don't love that. You could do so much better things. But then also there's like Professor X. I'm going to get to the synergies in a second, but there's not a lot. The ability isn't that great. I don't even think you'd want to use Zero on this card, because that's like, there's so many better cards that you can use Zero with. So why are you running Martyr in there? That's where we have some deck building challenges. I think more often than not, you're going to put this card in your deck. It might do okay. It's probably the deck that's doing well, not necessarily Martyr. And then what's going to happen is you're just going to realize, oh, I can actually switch this card out for something else, a tech option even, and I'll be better off. And if we look at the 1/4 stat line, there's a lot of 1-drops that can reach that stat line and actually have more synergies provided with other cards. I'm talking about like Ant-Man going from a 1/1 to a 1/4 with ongoing synergies, Hawkeye going from a 1/1 to a 1/4 with on-reveal synergies, Nebula easily going to 3 power, 5 power, 7 power, Sunspot, another card. Like there's a lot of 1-drops that can get to better power totals without the risk of losing you the game, which makes it really difficult to warrant putting Martyr in your decks. So that's where I'm struggling with this card, not to mention some of the counters, which we are going to get to in a second. But let's quickly touch on maybe some future potential with this card with future data mined cards. All right, so here are some data mine combos for cards that are releasing in like the next 2 months. I'm not going to go too far into the future because those cards are likely to change. These ones probably going to keep their abilities, maybe some stat changes. So first up, we have Kaera, right? So she's a 3/4. Ongoing, your 1 and 6 cost cards can't be destroyed. That's fantastic. With Martyr, we don't want her to get destroyed. I think Killmonger is a massive, popular tech option to counter Martyr, and Kaera can help mitigate that. So I kind of like that. Still, we still have the issue of her flying over to a location that we don't want her to go to, but at least she's not getting destroyed anytime soon with Kaera. Another one is Firestar, talking about buffs. Firestar And let me just quickly note on this again. In my data mine video, I did not understand exactly how Firestar worked. I thought she was setting the power of all the cards playing the last turn to her power total. So that would make Martyr, if played on turn 5, a 1/3. No, that's not how it works. She's essentially giving that power. I thought they'd use the terminology of add, but they're saying gains. So anyways, if Firestar has 3 power, yeah, play Martyr on 5. You're going to give Martyr another 3 power. She's going to be a 1/7, and then there's a much less likely instance that she moves. Okay? So that's pretty great. Of course, we can even buff Firestar up to be even more. Crazy potential. Firestar is going to be a fantastic card, and Martyr could actually find quite a bit of success with Firestar, and Firestar is coming out next month. So in that light, you almost look at this like, oh, maybe I do want to pick up Martyr 3000 token card and I have future synergy with Firestar. I still think there's better options. I still think it won't quite be worth it. But anyways, those are some data mine combos. Let's go to the counters. I already touched on quite a few of these counters, so we're just going to gloss over them. But Killmonger, of course, she's a 1-drop. She's going to get destroyed. That sucks. We're trying to use her for her stat line, her power output. And if that just gets destroyed and disappears, then we're in a painful spot. Craven, again, if your opponent has Craven, Martyr's going to move over there, give him +2 power, and then probably lose us that location. That's not good. Another one that's kind of interesting is Iron Man. Yeah, I know. You're probably thinking, what? If my opponent has Iron Man, that's not like destroying Martyr or doing anything like that. But the reason I put Iron Man here is because if your opponent stacks a location with a very high amount of power, then 1, we're going to be very discouraged from playing at that location because we've already lost it. Why waste resources? We don't want to put cards there anymore. And 2, if there's open space, Martyr's likely going to move there. And she's unlikely to win the location because Iron Man is outputting so much power. So I feel like a very stacked location is a huge weakness against a Martyr deck or anyone running Martyr. Another one is Mojo. So, of course, Mojo, the way he works is if both locations are full, he's going to get +6 power. He's going to be a 2/8. Well, you're trying to fill the board with Martyr. Martyr, you might leave a space open because you're thinking, oh, Mojo, don't want to give him that power. But Martyr says, oh, yeah, let's give him that power. That looks great. Let's go over there so that my opponent gets +6. And you're only getting +4, we're definitely going to lose. That looks great. Let's do that. Or even better yet, they got Punisher. Oh yeah, I want to buff up that Punisher. Let's move over. They got Punisher, Craven, and Mojo on location. Oh my God, I got to get over there yesterday. That's what Martyr's doing to you, man. Like she's going to be a bit ridiculous trying to throw these matches. It's a bit much if you ask me. All right. And then you got Storm. Okay. So Storm, a bit of a weird one, but basically because we want to be playing a lot of cards, Storm's going to stop us from playing cards because the flood location is going to be hard to get stuff over there. And then maybe our opponent has won it by a significant margin that Martyr decides to fly over to the flooded location and throw it. And then otherwise, it's going to be a bit difficult, like get power, make use out of Martyr. So I feel like some location lockdown is going to give her a tough time, but there is some lockdown that can make it work, and maybe a lockdown deck is the way to go with this card. But I do have some deck lists brewed up for you guys. Let's check them out. All right, so I already went over the core synergies, right? Of course, Kazar being a 1-drop, we want to give her +power. I think that's one of the best instances in those zoo type lists. And then Ultron, right, fills up the board. Fantastic. Hitmonkey, getting a lot of power because she's going to be a cheap stat drop. Play a bunch of cards. Forge, kind of symbolizing those buff cards, right? You could look at Shuri, you could look at Okoye, Nakia, all these sorts of things. Get Martyr to high power totals so that she has a lesser chance of moving around. And Professor X is a really good one. The problem with Professor X is I struggled to find a deck that would really work with Professor X, but I'm sure there's something out there. Great card, and then great synergy with Martyr, really, because then she has no shot and moving around. So here are the decks. I got Infinity Zoo. It's a Thanos Zoo list. We're looking to swap out a bunch of Infinity Stones with Lockjaw to get these 1-drops out, or just have a lot of cards out on the board. Cheat out the Khazar, cheat out the Blue Marble, cheat out the Thanos if we can. Play a bunch of 1-drops, get them all buffed like crazy, and fill that board as much as possible. So Martyr has nowhere to go. If Nightcrawler or Jeff come out from the Lockjaw cycle, then we can move them away and keep on cycling. We even have M'Baku in here because he's a 1-drop and he gets flown out of the deck if it does happen. He's going to give us like +4 power because it is 2 base power, 1 from Khazar, 1 from Blue Marvel. Not too bad. There's an interesting thing where does it happen in sequence? I think the M'Baku would be after the Martyr, which might be a bit devastating, but Anyways, it would be funny to see. It would be really funny to see. Another one is Boombots. So this is an Ultron deck, but we also have Doctor Doom as an alternative. I'd rather play Ultron if I can, but if we have to go with Doctor Doom, we will. The idea being we stack one location with one of those robots, right? Doctor Doom or Ultron, Blue Marvel, Khazar, and Onslaught. Another option is to use Mystique to get the buffs or Patriot. Basically, you're not trying to play all these cards. You're just trying to get enough so you get a lot of power to those no ability machines like the drones or the Doom bots. We also got Squirrels as a backup and Mr. Sinister. These are just cards to fill the locations. That's what we got to make sure we do. We're extending the game with Magic, and we're trying to cheat these out with Wave, or play turn 6, possibly Ultron turn 7 Onslaught, or vice versa. So it's kind of just a typical Ultron list, but we're throwing in Martyr because we don't want her to move. She gets a decent amount of power. We can buff her up with Khazar and Blue Marvel, and then she ends up a 1/6, and that's not too bad. There might be some instances where you wish that Martyr was just a drone because she gets the no ability buff. So probably easy to cut, but this is one of those decks where I feel like she might be actually viable. Lastly is Hit Marty. Oh my God. I didn't know that, I didn't know it said Hit Marty. I thought it said Hit Martyr. That's so stupid. Man, come on. There you go. Sarah, Bishop, Hitmonkey, Mobius, Beast, Falcon. It's a bounce list with Hitmonkey, of course. That seems like a pretty good idea. Fill the board a whole bunch with Mysterio, Elsa to get those buffs because we're filling locations anyways. Martyr doesn't have anywhere to go. That's the core idea. That's what I'm thinking about. Hit Marty. Oh my gosh. Okay, there you go. Those are my deck lists. That's Martyr, man. I just don't see a whole lot of hope for this card. You're really just looking at the stat line and saying, is this card worth it? Do I want to run this card because it's a 1/4? I don't know. Let's see. Snap or pass? Pass. There you go. I don't think there's really much to explain that I haven't already. She's just not that great. She could lose you cubes, and she can be replaced in a lot of decks. So not too thrilled about this card, even though it's a Series 4 3,000 token release. I think maybe as Snap players, we get a little too caught up in the fact that it's only 3,000 tokens, when really 3,000 tokens is insanely expensive in this game. It's kind of crazy. 6,000 tokens is skyrocketed. So, it's still not great pricing. And it's still not a very good card. And I hope she gets series dropped like 2 months, because in Series 3, maybe we pick her up. But anyways, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh. Time will tell. We've been wrong before. I would love to be wrong about this card, but I don't think I will. Hey, okay. Let me know if you're excited about Martyr, or there's any combinations that I missed in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And I will catch you all next time.